If you've had pain on the backside of your hand that's preventing you from using your hands to type, game, play music, or any repetitive activity without pain, today I want to review how you can systematically approach recovery with this issue. We're going to cover various factors that can lead to issues at the top side or dorsum of the hand. We've spent the past 11 years treating over 3,500 persistent wrist and hand issues, which traditional care has failed to resolve. This video will include everything we've learned. We'll discuss the anatomy, what the causes are of pain in this region, how to address each of these causes, whether they're physiologic, psychosocial related, lifestyle related, and of course, how do we manage flare-ups. Pain on the top of your hand, your wrist that extends into the fingers often involves the extensor muscles. These are the muscles that are responsible for bending your wrist and fingers upwards toward the ceiling with your palm down. There are several muscles within the extensor group and all of them have different functions. You're going to learn in the next section with your activities and task-specific movements or ergonomics that often influences which muscles and tendons are involved. The most common extensor muscles include the extensor digitorum, which is common with desk workers due to repetitive use of their wrists and fingers, the extensor carpi ulnaris, again also common with desk workers, especially for those with floating wrists and forearms. Number 3, the extensor indices, more common on the right hand due to the extension of the index finger. Number 4, the extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis, and it's really common for those who have swapped to a vertical mouse or artists that are using a stylus. And the thumb extensor and abductor group, which is pretty similar to above, number 4. Now, because each muscle and tendon is responsible for certain movements, when you perform these specific movements based on what you do for work or your hobbies, typing, guitar, crafting, gaming, it can lead to irritation of these tissues. This naturally leads us to the discussion of causes. What can cause repetitive strain of these tissues? For most wrist pain issues caused by RSI, things like typing, gaming, playing guitar, crafting, drawing, it affects the tendons at your wrist and hand. Your tendons and their muscles can only handle so much stress. And if you exceed the limit, then you can irritate those tissues. And this often happens when you suddenly have to use your wrist and hand a lot for whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're finishing up a work sprint, drawing project, gaming for 9 to 11 hours a day for several days in a row. These are a lot of the common examples that we've seen. Or after several years of performing your activity without focusing on your physical health and endurance. Add a sedentary lifestyle and your body can become more weak. This means you decondition, and that can increase the risk of wrist pain. Now, there are other factors that can have an influence on pain, like your posture, ergonomics, and what may be surprising to many is the psychological and environmental factors that can play a role as well. Now, we've written and created several videos that you can learn all about how this works in the description below. But in short, when we experience pain for an extended period of time, our body can adapt, and it gets better at creating this experience of pain, and it occurs through real changes in our nervous and immune system. All of our past experiences, our beliefs, our fears, our anxieties, and other cognitive habits can consistently influence our pain experience. And this is often why individuals who deal with pain for an extended period of time have so much trouble recovering. Pain often doesn't behave in predictable ways when it becomes chronic, but it is never hopeless. We've helped thousands recover from cases, and more recently, one as long as 16 years. So to review, here are the common causes. 1. Your activity level and intensity exceeds what your body can handle. 2. Posture and ergonomics influences the amount of stress on your muscles and tendons during those activities. 3. Your cumulative experiences, beliefs, and understanding of pain can influence pain. And as a quick reminder, this pain pattern is definitely not carpal tunnel syndrome. Why? Because it involves pain that does not even involve the tendons or nerve within the carpal tunnel. You can watch this video here to learn a lot more. So how do you actually fix this type of wrist pain? Now that you understand what the causes are, here are the things that you can do to address each of these causes. As you might expect, there's a lot of nuance in how to address each of these things. This video is going to include general exercises, common issues with posture and ergonomics that lead to increased use of the extensor muscles, and helpful resources for understanding pain. Your body can't handle the level of stress. So if your muscles and tendons do not have enough endurance to handle what you're doing on a regular basis, it's important to build the capacity of those muscles and tendons. Here are a few exercises you can perform to improve your endurance. The first exercise I'm going to show you will focus on endurance, while the other two are better for pain and recovery. The first exercise is dumbbell wrist extension. And as I mentioned, this is for endurance and targets the muscle and tendon involved. You want to choose one that is around 3 to 5% of your body weight. Now, there are two ways to do this. One with your armrest or resting on your thigh. And the main goal is to ensure that you're isolating the movement at your wrist. For each repetition, you're going to bring your dumbbell all the way down and then all the way back up. If this is a bit too difficult for you, then you want to start with less of the range of motion. You'll start by doing 2 sets of 15 to 20 moving slowly through the movement. This may cause a little bit of discomfort on the top side or even the palm side of your hand since you're gripping the actual dumbbell. As long as it is less than 2 to 3 out of 10 or it's not sharp, you can continue to perform the exercise. And if you don't have a dumbbell, you can use a water bottle or a backpack filled with books. The dumbbell is helpful since you can gradually increase progress in weight. The towel extension isometric. This next exercise is an isometric exercise, which means that the muscle and tendon length is not changing while you're performing the exercise. Use a towel for this exercise, roll up one end of the towel to grip it in both of your hands and step on the other end of the towel with the appropriate amount of tension. Pull up into the towel so you're pushing upwards against the tension of the towel. And you can rest your forearms on your thigh to ensure they're parallel to the ground. And we've adapted a protocol from the research for the wrists and hands. Isometric exercises have been shown for certain individuals to provide some relief for their pain for as long as 2 hours. Now perform this exercise for 45-second holds, resisting up to 50 to 70% of your max strength. Think about pushing between 50 to 70% of what you feel is the most you could possibly push. Then you'll be resting for 30 seconds and repeating this cycle 3 to 5 times. And for those that might have a lot of difficulty with the dumbbell exercise, you can try to only perform the isometrics first, since they can help you start building endurance and help with some pain relief. Wrist extensor stretch. Stretches can be helpful to also provide temporary relief, especially if you need to use your hands frequently throughout the day. This is a stretch that directly targets those wrist and finger extensors. You can bias in each way to target the inside or outside of your extensors. Hold for around 20 to 30 seconds. Perform up to 2 to 3 times a day in response to any extended activity where you're using your hands. So think after your initial work block, at the end of work, after a long drive, after you finish a gaming, music, or drawing session, anything that requires extended use of your hands. And if you follow us, you know exercises will help build up your endurance or max HP so you can tolerate more activities over time. However, posture and ergonomics can influence how much HP you lose over time, and more importantly, what muscles are being used. Improving posture and ergonomics to reduce stress on your extensors. Here are 2 of the most common issues we see that lead to increased use of the extensors. The first is floating wrists. When individuals float their palm or don't utilize forearm support, it can increase the use of your wrist and finger extensors. You are using your extensors to hold up the weight of your forearm and hand against gravity the entire time you're performing your desk work. You want to support your forearm and palm if you want to reduce the stress per unit time on your extensors. But remember, the exercises still provide the most benefit in building up your capacity and allowing you to use your hands more with less risk of tissue strain. In other scenarios, some individuals may have swapped to an input device that may have actually led to an increase in the use of the extensors. Now, whether it be a larger mouse, which can often lead to a bit more of wrist extension, and that causes the muscles to have to work harder per unit time, or a roller mouse, which can often lead to an increase in both the flexor and extensor use depending on the tasks involved. When scrolling up, especially if there's a lower overall sensitivity, that can require more overall use of the extensors. Now, these setups lead to an increase in the use of the extensor muscle group. If you don't have enough endurance to handle this increased usage over your workday, then it can lead to tissue irritation. Now, one of the most commonly missed aspects of pain is the psychosocial component. Address your understanding of pain. Understanding the science of pain has made large strides in the past 25 years. However, there has been difficulty in its integration into the traditional care and medical education model. And I've written about why this is in many previous articles and videos, but there's no incentives, money comes first, and there's a fragmented system. Now, by better understanding pain and how various environmental and cognitive factors can influence how you're feeling, you can have more control over your own life and what you're able to do. Many individuals with chronic pain allow their pain to often decide what they can or can't do, when it's been proven that pain does not reflect the state of our tissues, but rather is more about protection. And you can learn in depth about the science behind this through this video here, or a lot of the articles I'm going to list below in the description. So what we've learned is that these occupational, psychosocial, and cognitive factors can influence your pain despite your tissue not actually being close to strain. And this can occur as a result of not understanding what pain means, why it may be sensitized in certain situations, and whether or not you can safely continue with your activities. Over time, based on your repeated decisions of avoidance or activity, you're teaching your brain whether or not you're in a state of safety or danger. Learning how to create messages of safety rooted in real evidence. That means based on physiology and understanding of pain, and even experiences that show you are okay, helps to reduce how often pain makes these decisions for you. This is of course easy for me to say, but it's a crucial part of either working with a provider who understands pain science and can guide you to determine whether or not you actually need to modify your activity based on whether or not your tissue is actually strained. The tactical way to address these psychosocial aspects is to 1. Understand more about pain. 2, you can work with a provider to understand what actually represents tissue strain based on your capacity and pattern of behavior. Number 3, gradually increase your activity over time based on this physiologic capacity. And that should be established by some endurance tests. They should also be based on your activity tolerance and ability to process your pain. Now in practice, it's going to look something like this. You'll read Explain Pain or The Way Out to understand more about the physiology around persistent pain and how variables can even create the symptoms of sharpness, numbness, tingling, and even feeling off. Then you work with a physical therapist to understand your wrist extensor endurance and someone who's informed how much you can tolerate your activity based on your performance of the test. Now, for example, typically around 3% of your body weight for wrist extensors, if you can perform between 40 to 60 reps easy, that typically equates to around 6 to 8 hours of typing or desk work with low risk of strain, pain, or injury. And these are based on the normative values that we've established over the 11 years of assessing this more than 3,000 times and actually 6,000 plus data points within our app. Then you work with a physical therapist to clarify your exact schedule, behavior of pain, your current understanding of pain to establish the activity and exercise recommendations for your first week. You'll exercise daily, 1 to 2 times a day, maintain your current activity, or depending on your schedule, you might even relatively deload. Your tissues will adapt and you'll understand more about pain. And then you'll work with a physical therapist to gradually increase your activity over time. Now, this graded exposure provides real evidence that you can tolerate more activity without leading to tissue strain or symptoms getting worse. Now, sometimes it can improve or temporarily get worse, and those really depend on the recommendations or the individual and their cognitive set. Now, over time, you'll improve your ability to provide yourself signals of safety based on this growing evidence, and it requires patience and collaboration from a good provider that will help you get there. It is possible on your own, but it is difficult to navigate that understanding of pain. So as a quick overview, to address pain on the top side of your hand, it requires you to address any physiologic deficits. Then you need to modify your posture and ergonomics or your environment to reduce stress on your extensor muscles and tendons. And of course, you have to improve your understanding of pain and confront psychosocial drivers to pain. Now, I do want to touch a little bit about flare-ups. The road to recovery is never a straight line, and one of the most important things to understand is that flare-ups are a natural part of recovery. Here's a really great image about low back pain that can capture this concept. It's a very natural up and down with a gradual trend line of you improving on how to respond to doing more over time, how once you have a little bit more strength and endurance and understanding of pain, trying more things, but learning how to process and responding to those things, understanding how to navigate lows where you happen to have to do more, and again, steadily building back up. Recovery is difficult, especially if you're trying to navigate it on your own. I've written a complete stepwise guide on how you can manage flare-ups that you can check out in this video here or in the description below. Now, if you've been struggling with this for a long time and you want to see if we're the right team to work with you to help assess all of these things and build a plan that's personalized for you, all you have to do is apply with the link down below. We'll help you perform a 7 11-point comprehensive screen, all for free, to give you more clarity about what's going on and what you need to do to recover. Otherwise, check out our other pieces of content right over here. I'll see you soon.